Let me say a special good morning to those of you listening to Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9 on the FM dial. Those of you viewing us via GBN TV, whether you're viewing Channel 7, Channel 11 or Channel 20, good morning to you also. What about those of you via social media platforms, whether it's the Facebook page, YouTube channels, good morning, welcome. It's Monday, the 15th day of July. Almost go back at the year 2, you know, it's the 15th day of July within the year 2024. It's to the point. I'm your host, GT. And with me this morning, my guest from the Child Protection Authority. We have with me this morning Sabrina, Sanderson, plenty with us this morning, and we also have Donte Wilks. Let me say good morning to both of you and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure being here this morning.
All right. Nice to have you. Donte, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Seem to be on the quiet side for some reason. Well, we know we are into the hurricane season. We just experienced Hurricane Beryl, of course, destroying the sister isles of Carriacou, Petit Martinique, the northern part of the island, southern part of the island. Nothing really to complain about, even though there were some incidents that may have occurred. The Child Protection Authority, there's always a way that protecting the child or children in general, that's where you will come in here to offer that information to parents, guardians, individuals out there what should you do when in terms of preparing yourself when the call is made that there's a disaster, not really should do that, maybe a hazard, something of it will be taking place, a disaster may occur. How does the child protection, what kind of advice you'd like to throw out, especially to parents and guardians? Who's going to take up the mantle on that question?
I will go. I'll start.
Sure.
So in terms of disaster preparedness, there's the obvious rules generally for disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Have your non-perishables, etc. But when it comes to children, they're a very specific section. So you have to make sure that they're secured. So if you have to be separated from them for whatever reason, make sure you reassure them. Make sure they are comfortable, because if a child starts to panic, that could be a very dangerous situation, especially in a disaster. But the ideal is you're not separated, but if you are, make sure you reassure them. Mm-hmm. And in terms of important documentation, make sure that if you are still with them, you have everything with them and everything basically sorted out. Mm-hmm. Their passports, birth certificates, etc. And give them a pep talk. Basically explain to them the disaster plan as well. Don't just assume that, okay, you know everything, so you just guide them through it. Because if y'all are separated, they have to know what to do in your absence as well, just in case.
All right, great. Anything you want to follow up on that, Sabrina?
Yeah, sure. I'll just add, it is very important that parents are abreast with what is going on with their children. And as Mr. Wilks rightly stated, you have to have them included. Yeah. Because in the event that they're separated, they would need to know what to do. And also, even though that there are disasters going around, predators don't change because of the situations and the circumstances around us. So many times you see families have to resort to shelters, they may have to go to a neighbor's home or be separated, in fact. And the environment in which these children are exposed to, there can be predators lying around. So how do you prepare your children when they go into those environments? You have to come back and teach them those things, the basic trust, who to trust, even in terms of with the adults, what are some of the activities they need to engage in? Because a lot of times, in cases like that, desperation comes about.
Yes.
And in desperation, we may tend to do things without thinking logically and not thinking, you know what, these are some of the risks that I'm putting my child into. So we're at the shelter. Okay, all my children, I'm going to ensure all the children in my care, they're accounted for. I'm going to keep an eye out to watch the interaction with the adults as well as older teenagers. So you have to keep an eye out. Always ensure that you are looking. You know where they are. They're always accounted for because you're sharing bathrooms and toilets.
Yes.
You're sharing utensils, so you have to be mindful. I'm not going to allow my child to go to the washroom alone. I'm not going to allow them to just go outside and play with different persons.
Yeah.
So basically, just be on the lookout.
All right. Some folks would say, someone is listening right now would say, now, a hurricane is occurring. How can I give that extra attention? No, I'm thinking about all the battering my surroundings is having. How can I give my son or daughter that attention that I should, even though you should be? They are important because they may not be able to take care of themselves, the trauma and stuff that they may be going through mentally. How does that fit in there?
In terms of giving your child the extra attention, even though a natural disaster is going on, the child you have, whether it is your biological child or just a child you are taking care of, that is your first priority, basically.
Yes.
Because you can take care of yourself enough, but the child, depending on the age or just the situation, would not be as capable as you. So you would have them as your first priority, and just because a hurricane is going on or a natural disaster, the general rules don't change. You have to look after your child. You have to make sure stranger danger is in effect, as they say. You have to teach them basically good adults, bad adults, good people, bad people. Ideally, if you have to put them somewhere, put them with a relative, someone they actually know, they're comfortable with, etc. So the rules don't change just because of disaster. They would be slightly different situations, but the general foundational things remain the same.
All right. As usual, I want you to chime in on that also, Miss.
Yes, I just to piggyback on what Mr. Wilks said, because the most important thing that was mentioned is that we are the adults.
Yeah.
So in the situation, we have to remember that our responsibility and first priority are the children, and whatever emotions or behaviors that we display in those situations, the children feeds off of that. So we have to ensure that we are grounded. We have to ensure that we know how to remain composed even in those situations, and that goes right back to preparing them, so that when they see the galvanized flying or in the situation where they have to move from one place to another, you have already taught them those things. So you are now, this is now the practical parts of it, and they will be scared because they're children. They're going to panic because it's one thing to prepare for someone for something, and it's another to experience it.
Yes.
Because sometimes everything goes out the window and you don't remember what was taught. So the most important thing is remembering in this situation, I am the adult, I have a responsibility, and these are my responsibility.
The process of preparation for parents. How would you explain that to parents and guardians now? We are, as I said in my intro, we are just getting into the season. The process of preparation.
Okay. So for me, the first step in the process of preparation is ensuring, one, that you as the adult, you have a plan. Yes, you will get your family members involved, but you as the adult must ensure you have a plan, and that plan must include, when it comes to the children, one, who are they? Because each child is different.
Yeah.
There are children that are very introvert, meaning that they hardly speak, they will hardly communicate. There are those in times of situation they may panic, while some others may become very composed. So you have to know the different children that you are in charge of, and you also have to know, secondly, do they have medical conditions? So even in the event that, the disaster is passing, you have to make sure that all the medications, everything that needs to, all the important documents, medication, all those things are kept with you. Thirdly, you need to ensure that you give the children a pep talk.
Yeah.
You let them know, this is what we're preparing for. So you have a family plan. This is what we're preparing for. You look at the home, you let them know, these are the safe zones in the home. In the event that this happens, this is the route that we're taking. So you explore the plan A, the plan B, the plan C. You also let them know, in the event that we're going to a family member, we're going to a shelter, we're going to another place where there are persons, these are some of the do's and don'ts that you have to abide by. Even in cases where it is that the children are stuck with their devices, because this has become one of the biggest comfort tools for parents. the children are becoming anxious, they're sad, you don't want them to experience some of the traumas that are going around them, you give them the device as a distraction. But they still needs to be guided on those devices, because the internet is not as guided as we would assume or would hope it is. Because even some of the children content are not for children.
So tell me, how do our parents manage their child, that particular child or children in general, especially with the trauma of a disaster? How do parents go about doing that? The trauma of it. A child may be so traumatized and may start acting out for some reason or the other. How do parents really manage that?
In terms of managing a traumatized child, especially for hurricanes or natural disasters, it would be a situation where you would have to first give your initial assessment of, okay, how traumatized is my child? Is my child traumatized? Because there's certain things that look similar to trauma that aren't actually trauma. But once you've confirmed that, okay, my child is going through something major because of said hurricane or natural disaster, you would then try to guide them on your own. First thing is, that's your child. At the end of the day, you know them best. You would be able to basically tell them, okay, I know that this natural disaster happened. I know that our roof came off, etc., and you're super scared to go to sleep at night or something of the other. But I am still your parent, I'm still your guardian, I will keep you safe, etc. But if that is not enough, then there are services in different ministries, Ministry of Social Development, etc., where you could bring your child and say, okay, this is a bit out of my scope, I'm going to seek professional assistance, and they could be able to counsel your child through their traumas and anxieties, etc., in terms of getting them to a state of normalcy, or at least as close to normal as possible, through the counseling and dealing with the trauma they're going through.
I have personally seen parents who have gone through the hurricane who are traumatized themselves. You understand? And have their sons and their daughters there with them, and they can't offer that reassurance to their sons and daughters because of the trauma that parent is going through. Maybe the loss of the roof of the house, damages are occurring and so forth. How can a parent themselves deal with that? What kind of how could a parent actually show their son and daughter that I'm the dad, I'm the mom is there for them, even though they're going through their personal trauma themselves?
Okay. I think what is important, and especially keeping in context with our culture, trauma is something that a lot of persons don't acknowledge they have. And I would have been part of many conversations post-burial, and many persons would have said this one statement: I did not know how traumatized I was after Ivan until I experienced burial. So it's like different situations you go through, it kind of reignites and reminds you of this is what would have happened. So the first thing for me would be to advise parents to, you must be attuned with yourself and your emotions. You have to accept this is what is going on, because to be investing in your property and so many things and to have it just gone in the split second, it can be very damaging on yourself and on your family, because now you're not just thinking about yourself, you're also thinking about, I have a responsibility. How are my children going to keep safe? How are they going to be sheltered? How am I going to protect them? So the parent must first come to that place of accepting this is what I'm going through. And once you would have reached to that place, then we have family and friends that you can talk to, especially if it is that you have a spouse that you can rely on. You speak to them about it. You try to get your emotions off first, because so many times when it is that we are fully loaded and we're overwhelmed and we try to help other persons, our intentions may be pure, but because what that person is going through is also triggering something in us, the response and the reaction that we give off can add further trauma. So it is important that the parents are attuned with themselves and they acknowledge this is what I'm going through, and I'm going to talk to someone about it. And then you would see, you know what, I may not know everything, but I'm going to check in with my child or the child that I am caring for. And this is the importance of having a relationship with your child before any disaster happens. So you do periodic check-ins even now. How are you feeling? How was your day? You come from work, they're at home right now because school has closed. You check in on your children. Ask them, how are they? How was your day? What did you do today? Not just when you reach home, did you watch Wells? How much TV you watch today? You're checking on those things that would result in punishment because there's an expectation that they would have done something wrong today. But you go in with a clean slate. You go in with a sense of trying to get understanding and to build a closer bond. Because when it starts now, in the event that any disaster or any situation happen thereafter, there is already that bond and that rapport between the parent and the child, where you may not even need a professional to come and say something is wrong with your child, but you can pick that up, and that child don't have to feel attacked. That child don't have to feel I'm not comfortable to tell mommy how I'm feeling, but that child is comfortable enough to say, you know what, mommy, daddy, auntie, this is what happened, this is how I felt when this was happening. And you build that conversation, you have those family conversations, so it spills over to when situation happens.
Okay, great. Now, post, burial and maybe a disasters that may have come, where does the CPA comes in within the community and so forth? Where does the CPA comes in?
Well, in terms of the community, our job would very much be as it was before and after burial, and additional things as well. Because, as Ms. Plenty quite rightly said, predators do not change because of a disaster.
Yeah.
So if you have a child predator, their tactics would be similar. And now that a hurricane has passed, you have a lot more vulnerable people, whether it's an entire family or a child. Some families, they would have lost their roof. They would have a lot less security in their house. They've lost their entire homes, if you're talking about people in Carriacou, Peter Martinique, etc. So then you are forced to be in a shelter, like an actual shelter, or you're forced to shelter with a relative. And sometimes if you're sheltering with a relative or just somewhere else, they would take that as an opportunity to say, okay, well, this person is sheltering with me, they have nowhere else to go, so then I can do whatever I want, because you're with me. So therefore I know if I do something, they're not going to tell their mother or their father or their auntie, because they think, okay, well, if I tell on him, he's going to throw me into the streets. I will have nowhere to go. I will have nowhere to stay. So that's where we would come in to instruct parents and say, okay, the rules haven't changed. Tell your children, good adults, bad adults, good people, bad people, good touch, bad touch, etc. And if somebody does touch you, tell them, okay, I know we're staying by this person, but if they've done something to you, you can still tell me. If we have to go somewhere else, we'll go somewhere else, but their safety is their main priority. You have to make them feel like, okay, the disaster happened, but I'm still your parent, I'm still your guardian, I'm still the one who will keep you safe and comfortable, etc. Even though outside is falling apart, you're comfortable inside with me, kind of thing.
Okay. What are some of the risks involved, especially post, a disaster, especially for children? You spoke a wee bit about, predators and so forth. But what are some other risks that's involved?
Well, one of the biggest risks, as you stated, is the predators. But even more so, we have to look at the influence of social media.
Yeah.
Because in most times post-disasters, the adults are the ones doing most of the jobs. So you see the adults cleaning up, you'll see the adults here, the adults there, trying to provide for the children. And you would see the children during those times are mostly unsupervised. So you have to be mindful of, as I said earlier, the social media, what it is that they're exposed to. Then secondly, you have to look at the fact that there are so many hazardous things lying around. Remember, galvanized would have been flying. There are nails, there are pieces of board with rusty nails. Sometimes, based on where the home would have moved to, you have medications and needles and stuff being exposed. So you have to be mindful of those things as well, because those things put children at risk. And so many times you might see a child come home and they say, oh, mommy, something took my foot. and you may see it as a little thing, but because you do not know what it is that would have caused that injury, it is important to seek medical attention. That even in cases like that, because in the event that it was worse, the children have to get the tetanus injection. So you have to ensure that you look out for those hazardous risks. You also have to be mindful that even though nothing physically did not happen to your home, you check your surroundings. There could be a tree that would have leaned. It did not fall completely, but it is out of place. You have to look for, even in cases of wires that are being exposed, because some of the poles would have fell down. So you have to look for those things. You have to consider the water that the family is consuming, because a lot of the times the water would have become contaminated because of that natural disaster. So you have to do the necessary. You try to get the boiled water if you cannot have access to bottled water. And in cases like that, some persons in the desperation, they just resort and they go and they drink the water just so. But you have to try to be mindful that, you know what, as there is a saying that says, "Stitch in 9 saves time."
Yeah.
So let me do what I need to do now to prevent future damages later on, because I already have enough to deal with as it is. So you have to look out for those things and keep those things in mind.
And there's also the option of the health complication that you pay zero notice to at times, because your son or daughter may be having a health issue.
Yes.
And because of the post hurricane or the disaster, you pay limited attention to whatever health is. They probably be coughing, you think it probably is a normal cough. So these are factors that folks could put a lot of their attention to, especially in preventing your sons or daughter from becoming ill more than they should.
Yes, and even in that, you have to prepare before the disaster that the medications and the supplies are always stocked up.
Yeah.
Do you know that your child is asthmatic? You need the different pumps, you get those things. You need different medication for allergies and different symptoms that the children usually display. The doctor prescribed those medications. You have those things stocked up so that you know what, I have that in an important bag. And it's always important to have an important bag.
That's so true.
It's critical.
Because folks sometimes do the panic buying and only consider food, right?
Yes.
They only consider the food and not the medication and the basic medication that you need in the home for yourself and the children.
Yes, it's very important.
We drew for a break. Let's take it. We're coming back with much more folks. Stay with us here. It's To The Point. And of course, with us this morning is the folks from the Child Protection Authority. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Grenada is on a track to become a Caribbean trendsetter for waste management and recycling. We are establishing a recycling culture to rid our landfill, our country, of plastic waste. Under the OECS Recycle Pilot Project, residents and the business sector are being encouraged to see the potential in plastic. Every day, plastic bottles can be stored and prepared for collection and recycling. Plastic is not waste. There is investment opportunity in plastic recycling, sustainable clean water, food safety, beautiful beaches, marine spaces, and a potential arena for investment for OECS entrepreneurs. Let's recycle and explore avenues to convert plastic into profit.
Recycle OECS. Green actions, blue oceans.
Sound the alarm! Get your posse ready as the Spice Mass Corporation presents the highly anticipated Groovy and Power Soca Prelims. Groovy and Power Soca Prelims. Dates for the Groovy Soca Prelims: Wednesday, July 10th to Friday, July 12th on the Tantin Netball Court. And the Power Soca Prelims kicks off this Saturday, July 13th to Monday, July 15th on the Lassages Hard Court in St. David's. Admission only $10. Showtime 8 p.m. sharp. It's Soca and Mo Soca. It's the Groovy and Power Soca Prelims. Don't miss the experience.
Welcome back once again, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to The Point for today, Monday, the 15th day of July. With me this morning is Miss Sabrina Sanderson Plenty and Mr. Donte Wilks with us this morning, representing the Child Protection Authority. And our next level of the conversation goes to where we getting into the festive season. Yes, there was some conversation as relates to it already. But your child being home now, as I say, the summer vacation, as we would call it, home, there are things that parents have to be concerned about. I want to know you all to start off by offering some advice, the do's and don'ts for parents as we get into the festive season right now. Vacation, festive season, everything comes into play now as we were in this particular era. Tell us, what are some advice you would like to throw, especially to parents right now, as it relates to protecting their child or their children in general?
Well, in terms of parents and the festive season, depending on the age of your child, there will be different things they want to do. Yeah. If you have a very, very young child, maybe they want to stay at home or they want to go outside. Older children, closer to adulthood, they probably want to be outside everywhere. Mm-hmm. The thing would be giving your child the internal voice to know what is right and wrong, because you won't be there all the time. And even if, let's say, a child lies to you about where they're going, at least you've given them the preemptive instruction to say, okay, they know this situation looks a bit dangerous, let me leave. Or, okay, well, things don't look a little safe right now, maybe I shouldn't go there, kind of thing. So give them the instruction beforehand just in case you're not there. But that would go back to building a bond with your child. Once you have a bond with your child will say, okay, I want to go to this event, I want to go here, I want to go to this party, this fete, Sokomonak, etc. And once they're there, they will know what to do if you've given them previous instruction. Whether it is, don't take drinks from strangers, be aware where you're going, go with people you know, stay in a group, don't go off by yourself, these kind of things where safety is the key. Know when to leave, know where to go, these kind of things, basically.
All right. Anything you want to add to that?
Yes, sure.
Ms. Bronte?
One of the main things I would say is supervision.
Yeah.
We are aware that although school is on break, there are many parents, those who are not teachers, that are still working. And one of the biggest issues that comes about is, where do I put my child while I go to work? I still have to make $1. It is important that despite being faced with that challenge, you do not neglect that fact that your children need to be supervised 24/7. At the end of the day, yes, you have $1 to make, but the sacrifice you're making are for the children. And if the children are not there, then who the sacrifice is what for? So it is important that the children are properly supervised throughout this time. You may not be able to afford some of the summer programs that are going on, but you can see if you have an adult in the family or in the community where it is that you place the children under their supervision. Also, right now, I do know that the Ministry of Youth would have had a nationwide summer program going on. In fact, it begins today. It was supposed to start last week, but because of the Hurricane Beryl, it was postponed. So I'm not too sure how many parents would have used that opportunity to register their children to ensure that in each parish, their children can be in a summer program for 2 weeks. So supervision is one of the biggest things. Secondly, it is important to know who your children will be spending time with throughout the entire day. It takes 2 minutes. It takes sometimes even a split second for something to go wrong. So it is important that you know who are the children that your children would be with. Get in touch with their parents. A lot of the times in our culture, because we have so many close-knitted families and communities, we would say, okay, she's going to the road and play. All you know, she's going to the road and play with the children. You do not know exactly who are the children and who are their parents. So it is important that parents start bonding with other parents to create that close-knitted community of protection, to ensure that even though I am not around, I know that my child is properly supervised and looked out for. So supervision is one of the biggest things. And secondly, the festive season is coming up. There are activities that are for children and there are activities that are not for children. And this is just as simple as that.
All right. What kind of conversation should parents be having with their children, and at what particular age, especially in around the festive time, and know that school is on vacation and so forth? What kind of conversation parents should be having with their children?
Depending on the age, the conversation would be a bit different.
Yeah.
But the general premise of the conversations should be, okay, this is the festive season. We're all about playing mass and enjoying ourselves, but it should be up until a point. Don't go out into the festive season and do terrible things just for the sake of fetting, for the sake of enjoying yourself. Because enjoyment is one thing, crime is another.
Yeah.
Enjoyment is one thing, endangering yourself is another, basically. So you should be telling your children the things they should kind of be getting themselves into and things they should be avoiding. And also, parents must understand there's only a certain level of control you could have. Depending on the child, it would be great if they listen to whatever you said every time, but we all know that's not the case most of the time.
When they get to that rebellious age also.
Exactly. So once they get to that age, the most you can do is probably advise them to say, Hina, if you're going to go to this event, at least know what you're doing. Go with people you know, have a network of friends to say, well, watch, this thing getting a little hectic, let's leave. Or a fight breaks out, you have to leave. Somebody is getting on entirely too loud or aggressive or something with you, it's better, as they say, to leave now and live to fight another day. So those kind of conversations they should be having with their children.
All right. Anything you would like to add to that?
Yes, just to add, even in cases where it is that the children do go to some of those festive activities, you have to ensure that you prepare them. Let them know. Who do you take drinks from? Because many of the times you see a child might say, okay, I know that I'm already breaking the rule because mommy told me don't go there, I'm already here. I'm not going to drink alcohol. And because of the friend group that they're in, they may feel pressured into doing so. So it is important that you instill those things in your children. Who do you take the drinks from? What are the type of drinks that you take? Do not take open drinks or drinks that are already poured out from someone. Even if it is, we have that gut feeling, as we say. And sometimes we ignore that gut feeling because we're trying to fit in and because we're trying to, you know what, I don't want to seem soft, I don't want to seem like a mommy's girl or a mommy's boy, so they fall into that. So it is important that they know those things. And also, once you're over the age of 12, it's a different tune that is being sung, because it's not just about disobeying, it's not just about, okay, I do something wrong, but you also have to look at the legal ramification, because once you're 12 and older, you can be held accountable by law. And those under 12, they can barely protect themselves. So as parents, you have to be mindful that even though I see outside as safe, when there are some activities, I am not going to send my child alone. You cannot send a 6-year-old to Carnival lunch on their own. You cannot send a 10-year-old out there for themselves. Yes, you may say, oh, they're street smart, they're wise, they know money, they are accustomed taking bus to go to school. But this is a different situation. You have different persons out there, and especially the predators. Again, these are the opportunities that they lie and they wait for when there are massive crowds, because everybody is focused on themselves or those who they are around, and no one is going to be on key looking out to say, hey, this child is going with this guy, I don't know if she's know him. So we have all those things that we have to be on guard for, and be our neighbor's keeper.
And you know, society has changed these days. No longer are individuals looking out for Mr. this son or Mr. this daughter anymore. People some folks could care less. And even though they know who you are, could be a neighbor. Now, what are some of the concerns from the CPS, especially for the festive season, and so forth? What are some of the major concerns that you folks are really would like to throw there this morning?
Major concerns, CPA specifically, would be in general, just keep your children safe. That's the overarching concern. But the major one is pretty much just instructing your children, making sure you know where they are. If you're going a day, 2 days, 3 days, and you don't know where your child is, that should be raising alarm bells in your head. That should be saying, okay, they said they were going here, but I ain't really find I hear from them. They haven't messaged me. I'm calling them, it's ringing out. Don't just assume, okay, they said they were going by XYZ cousin's house or friend's house. They're not answering my calls, so well, their phone must be dead. So they'll be fine. The they'll be fine mentality is used entirely too often, and it is better to be known as the annoying parent and your child is safe than you're known as the laid-back parent and something happens to your child. Yeah. So things like that are of concern. Location of your child. What are they doing? Are they doing what they said they were going to do? Or it could be a case where they were going where they said they were going, something happened, your child is now in a different location that they didn't intend to be. Are they able to reach you? Because a lot of times a child may get into a dangerous situation and it's only because they could contact their parent or guardian or relative to get them out of said situation. That is the difference between, okay, I was a bit scared, to, okay, something happened to me, in the child's perspective. So things like that, location of your child, communication, honesty, checking on your child. They said they were going to this vet. Are they there? If they're not there, where are they? Kind of thing. So stuff like that.
All right. I know you down to chiming on this in terms of some of the concerns that the Child Protection Authority have as relates to festival and so forth around this time of the year.
Yes, and this is what would have motivated us to be here this morning, because over the years, especially during the school break and the summer break, because that is one of the longest break, one of the main things we have had to deal with is supervision.
Yeah.
Supervision, and because of supervision, we have seen a ripple effect of the increased number of reported cases that we have during that period. So supervision is one of our biggest concerns, and also as it regards to children getting involved in other activities that would have caused them to be in legal issues. Because many of the times you would see in some of the homes, the children that are under 10 are being supervised by a 13-year-old, a teenager, right? And in some cases, persons may say, okay, well, I have to go to work. And it is fine. You can go to work. But as I said earlier on, it is important that your children are adequately supervised. Because it's one thing to say, okay, the older sister, the older brother, the uncle is watching them. But if that uncle is not known to be around, who's supervising them? If that uncle or that auntie is, by the neighbor, and the children in the house for themselves, then you'll see cases of where it is that, a child light a match and the house burned down. There are so many things that are preventable that we have to work on as parents, and that is why we are encouraging parents and pushing adequate supervision, because many persons don't see the importance of it. And I will be repetitive over and over because I want it to sink in. Adequate supervision is critical in this season, because you have to ensure that as parents, your children and the children that you have in your care are properly supervised. You know what is going on with them. You are in tune with where they are, who they are with, what they're doing, what are the expected times they're supposed to return home. If it is that you're allowing your child to go to an activity with a group of friends, does that child has a mobile phone that they're reachable on? Does that mobile phone have credit on it? Can they call? So you have to think of those things and ensure that, I am going to be proactive rather than responsive. And that is what we're pushing in this season.
And another issue is parents who are not developing that parent-child relationship is also critical, especially around this time of the year.
Yes.
Where a son or a daughter may feel I need to call my mom and dad, just let them know what my environment is like, where I am, especially if you decide to permit them to attend a particular event. Also the concern of parents allowing, how do you feel about parents who are allowing their sons and daughters? Yes, you may be 16, 17 years old, but you're permitting them to go to particular activity where heavy consumption of alcohol maybe, and lewd behavior may also be part of it. How concerned is the CPA feels in relation to that?
In terms of these events, right, some parents may allow their children when they approach 16, 17, and in some cases much, much younger, to go to these events. And you as a parent need to understand the gravity of what you're doing. if you are letting this child go to this event, you kind of need to think about what is going to happen in this event, what is typically expected to happen in this event.
You may have experienced already as a parent.
Yeah.
You know.
So these events, it's not just children. You are sending your child, yes, but it's mainly going to be a lot of adults or other children. And even though you have grown your child in the best way possible from since they came into this earth to now, you are not surrounded by people like your child as well. Not everyone is like that. Yeah. So it would be a concern where, okay, you're sending your child there, there's consumption of alcohol. If they're going to do it, if you are telling them not to do it but they're going to do it anyway, explain to them the simple rules. Don't take drinks from people. If you're going to drink, don't drink to excess. If you feel like something is wrong, leave. Don't stick around to figure it out. Figure it out at home. Don't stay in the event. Make sure you have a ride to get home. Make sure how you get in there and how you leave it. And if the ride you have to get home doesn't work, have a backup plan as well. Because oftentimes, there will be your transportation to get there and come back is the same person. They're super agreeable on the way there. But if they go into the same event, you realize, okay, well, they drink up whatever they drank or something happened to them in the event and they say, watch, I don't feel like bringing this person home. So they left, you're looking for them, you can't see them. Now you're like, okay, well, I told my mother I had a ride home, but my ride is now not here. How am I going home? You have to have that kind of backup plan. Yeah. Even if it's not agreed upon fully to say, okay, well, I'll organize a ride in case this person goes, have someone that they could call to say, okay, this person left, I need to get home. They have that backup plan. Or better yet, you be the backup plan for them. Yeah. I know this event might be finishing 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, but I feel like as a parent, it's better to shake the sleep out of your eyes than to wipe the tears from your face, basically. So, yeah, get up and go and get it.
In terms of the conversation with your sons or daughters, was plenty, tell me.
Yes, I think it is important. But we also have to be mindful of the different parents and children that are out there. Yeah. There are those who listen and there are those who don't. Mm-hmm. And especially during the teenage years, most persons said the rebellious years, there are a lot of parents who, prior to this festive season, have become frustrated because they believe that a lot of their efforts have been wasted because of the behaviors and attitudes of their children. So often at the times we get numerous calls with parents expressing their frustration with their children, even though they would have told them that they cannot go to that activity, they would still leave. And so many times you see a lot of the faces being posted on social media, and sometimes we wonder why it is that there is an upsurge in those cases, why it is that we are always seeing the Royal Grenada Police Force putting out a missing child. So we have to be mindful of the different family types and the dynamics that are out there. But one of the most important things that remains universal is that they are the parents. Yeah. And even though you reach at a point where it is that you don't feel that there is nothing else you can do to impact that child to make a good decision, reach out. Don't just throw in the towel. Reach out to the police. Reach out to Child Protection Authority. Call on us and let us know. We have counseling services available. Some are reluctant to take it, some are not. But we are willing to start there because we have to start somewhere. Because if we do not start somewhere now, look at where we are right now. In fact, the cases continue to grow, the issues continue to exist, and we continue to say, reach out, reach out, reach out. The laws are there, the social media is there, Child Protection Authority is there on Facebook. Facebook is something that everyone has. Go on Child Protection Authority's Facebook page. Even if you don't have our contact numbers that are widely available, send a message through Messenger, but reach out and help. That is what we are saying. children. While we educate you and we advise you, we are also saying that we are here for you in this season.
All right. We drew for a break again. Let's take it. When we come back to the next segment, to our viewers and listeners, if you do have a question or two or to contribute towards the program this morning, feel free to do so in the next segment when we do come back from the break. Stay with us. It's To The Point for today, Monday. We'll be right back.
Tourism is me. Tourism is you. Tourism.
Get ready for the ultimate family fun day at PAL Kids Fest.
On July 20th at 1 p.m. at the Moulin Rouge Playing Field for an unforgettable day packed with excitement.
And guess what? Admission is absolutely free.
Immerse yourself in a world of thrilling activities, from mini vehicles to bouncing castles, face painting, and so much more. There's something for everyone to enjoy.
And the fun doesn't stop there. We're giving away incredible prizes, including Amazon Fire Sticks and a flat screen TV. Don't miss your chance to win big. Eats and drinks on sale.
Don't miss out on the biggest event of summer. Bring the whole family and make unforgettable memories at PAL Kids Fest. See you there.
This ad is sponsored by Terry's Yacht Services,
Modern Photo Studio,
Maitland's Trucking Services,
GBN,
and 92.5 FM.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. It's To The Point for today, Monday, the 15th day of July. With me this morning, the Child Protection Authority. I did mention in this segment we are accepting your calls. For those of you listeners and viewers out there who have a question or two or contribution towards today's program, feel free to do it in this segment. Let's take our first caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning, caller.
Right. I just want to ask the panel a question. Is it Child Protection Authority or Child Protection Services? That's the first one.
You want to respond? I think he wasn't hearing you at that time.
Child Protection Authority.
Child Protection Authority.
Right. And I'm asking why I find authority is a bit of strong word. Why not Child Protection Services? That's the first question. I mean, maybe you could answer it afterward. Why not Child Protection Services? I find services might be a better word, but I suppose maybe you all have the reason for that. But I feel Child Protection Services is a better one. The other thing is that in relation to children and cell food and so on, I remember a few years ago I went to England and there was this parent that have a child going to school, and the child have this phone, and the child could only call the parent. The parent could call the child. The child could only call the parent and nobody else. Do we have this in Grenada and Flo? So do we have that in Grenada whereby you have a phone, you give the child a phone, and if in case of the child want to get on to the parents, only the parents, they can't call nobody else. Do we really have that in Grenada? Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution this morning. In response to the caller, in terms of the questions asked, he preferred Child Protection Service instead of Child Protection Authority. I'm not sure. And in terms of reference to calls, well, if there's a system where I think it's possible that a parent can do that, in terms of just having the phone program in a particular way.
In terms of the calls situation, that would have to be a specific thing you would have to adjust with your telecommunications company, whether it's Flow or Digicel. You would then have to basically do the whole process, get them a SIM card for that phone, and when you're setting it up, tell the customer service representative, I would like this SIM card for this number to only be able to call mom, dad, etc., and put your numbers there, and you would basically pre-program it to be locked to only those numbers. So if you would like to limit who they contact, that is the way to do it, through your telecommunication company itself.
All right. All right. 4352041. You also have the option of calling via the WhatsApp 4352041. You could call us directly if you do have a question or two as relates to our conversation this morning. How do you, of course, protect your son or daughter? We're into the festive season. We spoke a whole lot about the just concluded post, I should say, Hurricane Beryl. We did talk about that, and so if you do have a question or two, anything that you want to chime in on as we move along this morning, as relates to the festive season and protecting your sons and daughters, anything else that we may have missed that we want to chime in while we await the calls? And I still we do have another call, so while your mind is percolating on that, let's entertain this caller. Caller, you're welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, and would you please lower the device in the background before you continue, please? Caller, you may, when you get that taken care of, you can always call us back, 435-2041. And I thought you would have grabbed some ideas while we are with the caller, but...
Okay, yes. One of the things that we can say additionally is that throughout this festive season, it is important that we are mindful of what activities we send our children to and how they are dressed for that activity. Yes, there is a saying that says, because I have a right doesn't mean that it is right. So it is important that the dress code, it's important, because so many times at the end of the day, everyone should respect other persons, but so many of the times we have seen children and some of the dress codes that are being portrayed as accepted, and then we see a lot of the situations that happen because of that.
So you want, I mean, on cut away, sometimes you're wondering, are the parents giving the children the money and support to buy this particular clothing type? And sometimes you wonder about that. Why is this lady or boy dressed this particular way, or this young boy or young girl dressed this particular? You will assume that the monies that they're receiving coming from their parents, because they're probably not employed. And you think, well, would parents be permitted them to buy the clothing type that they're wearing? You understand?
Because this is a very sensitive topic for some persons. Because some persons believe at the end of the day they have the right, which is so, to dress their child however they would like to. But on many occasions we have to be very mindful as individuals and as parents that the behavior and the attitudes and the actions that we display have ripple effect and consequences. And if I as a parent can do something that would prevent my child, even if it's a 1% preventative percentage, am I going to take that extra effort? Because many other times we can say, okay, whether you're fully covered or you're naked, it doesn't stop someone from doing something to you. But at the end of the day, as parents, what are the messages that you would like to send? We have to look at ourselves first, because we are our children's biggest role model. As parents, you have to make that decision and say, I am a mother now, I am a parent now, I am a carer, I have children in my care. What are some of the behaviors and attitudes that I would like to see that child emanate? And am I being hypocritical in my request? So these are some of the questions that we have to ask, because we have to start somewhere in order to prevent a lot of those issues that we are facing now.
All right. Okay, sometimes you see parents behaving those behaviors in public, and they do have the children, and then you see the children behaving in the same manner. So it's only copying of what they see mom or dad is doing.
Yeah, children are sponges. Whatever you put in there is what you get out. And sometimes when you squeeze, you would wonder where all these things come from. Yeah. But over time, from since inside of the stomach, that's why they have bonding taking place. They come out and they grow and they receive all what you pour out, they receive it. And then in situations, they pour it out.
Yeah. Some will raise the argument that, children of today's world have a mind of their own. Someone raised that particular argument. Because you say, well, as a parent, I'm doing all that I can do to make that my son or daughter, a respectable individual. And they just have a mind of their own, what they want to do. How concerned about that, you should feel, or do you feel about that? Where parents or individual are saying that, well, I brought them up to be respectable, but they are doing this and they are doing that, so I just let them be,
It comes to a point where, as they say, it takes a village to raise a child. Yeah. So you can only do up until a point.
But folks would say that era is non-existent to a point these days.
It depends on the village you would have created.
Exactly. Because the village does not necessarily mean your neighbors or people living around you. It's just a matter of the social surroundings of your child.
Yes.
Who do you bring around? What role models do you have for your child aside from yourself? Because if you are a great role model for your child, you don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't do any of these things. Not saying these are bad things, but everything is good in moderation. But you don't do anything to excess. They don't see you, quote unquote, blocking and drain or anything. But then Uncle Tommy blocks drains all the time. Yeah. Auntie Susie doesn't wear clothes. All these kind of things. So you are the role model, but all the people you bring around them are terrible influences.
Created that bad
Exactly. That's where it comes to. Because yes, you could only do so much as one individual. If you have 10 other people around that are showing that negative light, they're probably going to get more influences from the majority opposed to the minority. You have to first pattern it in your own life, and then it will trickle down to your child. Because yes, you could be a great responsible person, but you also have to have great responsible people around you as well to kind of show an entire community of good people opposed to just you yourself.
All right, we do have a caller. Let's see what this caller has to for the program this morning. Caller, good morning, you're welcome.
Good morning, JT.
Good morning to you.
I go to a club or a show. I meet a young lady. We have sex. Then I get to realize she's underage. Would I go to jail for that?
Most likely you would be. Any response to the caller?
Well, of course. At the end of the day, the age of sexual consent in Grenada is 16 years of age. And many of the times you would hear persons, especially the male in being in court, you would hear them saying things like, yes, she's under the age of 16, but she does not look like 16 because of what you perceive a 15-year-old to look like. Because everyone has different body types that is influenced by the varying biological factors. But at the end of the day, as a responsible adult that adults are supposed to be, it is important that you ask, what is your age? And if that person cannot give you an identification card to show their date of birth, I don't believe that you should proceed. Because just as if you go to the bank and you want to do certain transaction, the bank would have to ensure that you have an identification card. Yeah. So we have to ensure that if something is important to us and we want to be that mindful of our actions and the consequences, we do what we need to do in order to ensure our protection and the protection of our children.
All right, great. Caller via WhatsApp, good morning. Let's hear your contribution. Caller via WhatsApp, good morning.
10 o'clock almost already.
Caller via WhatsApp, good morning.
I guess piggyback on the last caller in reference to underage sexual content. if you are in some sort of event or some sort of party and you're saying, okay, I didn't know she was underage. I personally have always said that if somebody does not know they're underage, they didn't want to know. Because there are certain questions you could ask, you would know their age. If you were invested in figuring out if they're underage, you would figure it out. But you didn't ask enough questions. You weren't that invested. But now that you've realized they're underage, you're suddenly backtracking, making all kind of excuses. But if you're looking at them and any single question crosses your mind to say, well, maybe, probably don't proceed, Yeah. Better safe than sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Anything in closing before we take her up? It's almost 10 a.m.
Yes, well, just want to echo from the Child Protection Authority to our families out there, to the professionals, to the community members, be alert, be on guard, look out for one another. Parents, ensure that your children are adequately supervised. Children, listen to your parents and those trusted adults around you. If you suspect any case of abuse, you may not have all the evidence. Once you see that something is not right, you see that a child is at risk, a child is at danger, report. We have the police hotline, we have Child Protection Authority hotline, you have 911. There are so many different entities that you can call. You can go on Facebook where everybody is. Be alert and report. And that is our message today.
All right. So any closing contribution from you?
Closing contribution in general would just be to echo what you said. You have to report. Even if you don't want to call 911 or the Child Protection Hotline, tell a trusted adult. Even if you're unsure of how to handle it, consult with your community, consult with trusted relatives. Tell them, okay, XYZ is going on with my child, how do I deal with it? And also, believe your children the first time. Don't say, okay, I know so and so they would never do that. Mm-hmm. Put your child first. Don't put your head on a block for a friend you have opposed to your child. Because if it is a situation where this thing happened to your child, they will not forget the fact you didn't believe them and you believed your friend over your own child you brought into this world. So believe your children when they tell you things.
All right, great. I want to thank Ms. Plenty and Ms. Wilks. I want to thank you both for being on the program this morning, sharing information. Definitely, I would say, fruitful information. I certainly hope that parents and so on listening, the viewers and listeners out there who are listening this morning will pay attention to of course, to what the festival season that we're into right now, and be a parent for your sons and daughters. It's as simple as saying that. Be a parent for them. They certainly do need it. All right. Yes. Once again, thanks to all who contributed to today's program. If you called in for some reason you didn't get through this morning, not sure what's up with our lines this morning, but thank you once again for those of you who viewed, those of you who are probably driving or you're at home and you're listening. Thank you so much. Join us again for another edition. Have yourself a great day. That will we say goodbye.